This recording gives a short overview of features within foreCASH that may be of particular interest to project-based companies. For a general view of foreCASH, please refer to the other recordings on our website. Projects in your business may follow a general pattern, and so foreCASH allows you to store templates upon which new projects can be placed. We'll look here at an existing project that's been set up. This project currently has 5 stages. The value of each stage can be set, along with the duration of the stage in days, weeks, months, quarters or years. The first stage of a project always has a specific start date. Any later stage can be set to start relative to the start or end of an earlier stage. Using relative start points means that if you change the duration or start point of an earlier stage, the impact will cascade through or ripple through the timeline of the remainder of the project. The stage values set the total price you're charging the client, but let's think now about the costs. Costs can be specified for the project as a whole, or as here, specified by stage. Each cost element can be entered as a specific amount or as a percentage of the stage value. Using a percentage-based cost for a template can make it very easy to set up new projects and see an indication of the cash impact on your business. You can also specify when materials are booked out onto a job, say in advance, the start of a stage, evenly over a stage, or perhaps as work's done. For longer stages, this can be important when considering the cash flow. The materials used on a job may come from stock, as is the case for this last item, or you can mark them as job specific, in which case a specific purchase will be made and the payment terms for the item will be set, including options for a particular date, so many days after the end of the stage, or strict or month-end terms. Costs come in 2 types. General cost elements are for materials and subcontract labour. The labour element shown at the bottom is for internal labour, for employed staff. If a project has a number of stages which are similar in nature, you can copy it and insert it anywhere within the project. If you wish, you can save this project as a new template, or you could reset this project and pull in an existing template to use for the basis of this project. Once you've added all the stages and costs, you can quickly check the total value of the project, the costs and the margin, make sure you're happy with it, and then think about when we're going to invoice the client and how and when they're going to pay you. Invoicing for the project can be specified for the project as a whole, or as here, set by stage. You can set the default terms for invoices that are raised on this project. It could be net month end or a strict number of days after the invoice is raised, it becomes payable. You also have the option to enter a global deposit. You can also specify when the deposit would be paid, or when the invoice would be raised and when it would be paid. You also have the options to set up to 2 different retention elements. So typically a client may not pay an amount whilst snagging is carried out, or just as a guarantee for the client that the work will be up to standard. This can be set as a percentage, when the invoice will be raised, and then the payment terms for the invoices. Here we've got the 5% retention of 5% retention, which will be raised 12 months after the project is completed, and then that invoice will be paid 30 days after that month end for that invoice. If we look at stage 1, we can say we've already set up 6 different invoice stages by way of example. The first tranche of the stage is payable relative to the start of the project after a couple of weeks plus 14 days. And then rather than the default terms, we've said here that the invoice is payable on 7-day strict terms. Think about the amount of the invoice. There's 3 ways you can actually specify what's payable. Percentage of the stage value. You could type in the amount of the stage, that would be the gross amount before retention and deposit. Or you could specify the net of retention amount. For the latter invoicing stages, we've got another number of other options displayed. Here the second invoice is raised 2 weeks after the first invoice. And again, it's got some specific terms set, net month end plus 45 days. Third item, invoicing at the end of the stage plus a few days, perhaps for a surveyor sign-off, and we could also use the month end after the stage. Once you're happy with the invoice to the customer, we can look at the project summary. The first grid at the top shows the total duration of the project, running from September through to December, and actually showing the time period that each of the stages are carried out. The right-hand grid shows the amounts of being invoiced and the due dates, including the retention there. Now, because the timing of the work done on the project may not align with the invoicing, this grid's showing us the work done, invoicing, and any accrued or deferred income. In particular, you can see that the retention invoice sits in the accrued income for a long time. We've also got a grid showing when materials are booked out onto the job and when the work's being performed, so we can see where there's materials which haven't yet been applied to the work done. So that's also money tied up, which is summarized in the last grid, again showing where we've got outstanding invoices, where that's money tied up for work done. We've got accrued or deferred income, work done which we haven't even been able to invoice yet, and the WIP where we've got money tied up in materials that are booked out of stock. So that gives a first indication of how much money is actually tied up on the job. This excludes the benefit you may get of having not paid any of your suppliers or subcontractors, but it's just a high-level capital absorption. To help you review the forecast and project setup, you can export it into Excel, which we'll see now. Here we are. We've got one tab showing all the project stages, values, costs, and then a breakdown by supplier of each of those costs, and a summary of the invoicing stages. And we've also got a second tab, again, showing the project summary of work done, accrued income, WIP, and capital tied up. We'll switch now back to the main foreCASH program, and we're looking at a forecast that's been run, including the project that we looked at. There's also another project and a couple of other revenue lines in there, together with the more general business costs of office overheads, salaries, properties, rent rates, telecoms, or whatever else it might be. This is a monthly profit loss. We've also got a monthly balance sheet, monthly funds flow, and Cashflow, which we have in two formats, and that's sort of FRS format as well as a straight in and out. Looking at this report, we can see some red highlighting down towards the bottom in May and June, which is actually forecasting that we're going to exceed overdraft facilities during the month, and it's also highlighting that we think it's just for one day here or there. If we look at that in more detail, let's drill down into a weekly view. Again, we can see that it's the last week in May where we've got an issue. We're showing 51,833 overdrawn against a facility of 50,000. We've clicked now into a daily level view. We can actually see the specific day where there's an issue. Let's see if we can sort this problem out. We've got cost of sales, got a subcontractor which we'll leave alone. We don't want to disrupt the job. We've got some salaries. Actually, looking at that subcontractor, we can actually see that this subcontractor operates under the CIS deduction scheme. We were due to pay them £4,000, but in fact we paid them £3,200, with £800 being deducted under CIS, which we pay over to the Inland Revenue with our next return. Let's look at other overheads and see if there's something in there that we can adjust. We've got £1,800 general overheads, and let's drag that back a few days just to ease that strain. And now we should clear most of that problem, and give or take a few pounds, we've solved the cash flow problems that we're having. If you'd like more information about forecasting for cash flow of project-based businesses, then please email info@forecash.co.uk to arrange a demonstration. Thank you for watching.